I'm going to show you something that changes how you view sports forever. See, playing sports is not random, and it's not just for fun, and it's not a waste of time. For most people who play sports, it is not the destination. And very often, God uses sports to shape character before he gives responsibilities. And that's what this video is about, how God prepares people through sports for leadership. How does God actually use sports to build leaders? Number one, humility. God crushes ego before he gives influence. Now, when people think of athletes, humility, it's usually not the first word that comes to mind, but here's the truth. Sports expose pride faster than almost anything else. You're corrected publicly, you're benched, you're told that you're not good enough yet, you're forced to submit to coaches and teammates, refs, systems, and that's not an accident. The Bible itself is very clear about leadership and humility, and a lot of those lessons coincide. Look at Philippians chapter 2, verse 3-8, and it says, "Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." See, Jesus didn't lead with ego, he led with service. And nowhere is that clearer than when Jesus washed the disciples' feet. Think about this, the Son of God, King of the universe, took on the lowest role in the room, washing the feet of his disciples, and that's leadership. Sports teach this same lesson in a different language. If you want to win, you make the extra pass, you do the dirty work, you serve your team. A selfish player is never going to win. You have to be a servant leader, you have to be a great teammate, and God often uses sports to remove entitlement before he entrusts others with authority. Sports is an incredible training ground for a lot of people. For me, playing sports, it was not the destination, but it was preparation. This started early. I started playing, just like many of y'all. I started playing sports as a young kid. I played hockey as a kid, then I fell in love with basketball in middle school, played high school, and then went on to play college. And looking back now, I can see something that I didn't see then. God wasn't just training me to compete. At the time, you think it's all about playing sports, it's all about what you're doing, but it was actually training me to lead. Through pressure, the losses, frustration, wins, failure. And with sports, there's this amazing thing where the stakes are always high. Everything matters, every possession, every play, every mistake is exposed. And that environment shaped me. And it shaped how I communicate. It shaped how I take responsibility. It shaped how I lead, how I handle pressure. And everything I do in business is really shaped from that relationship I had with sports. See, sports wasn't the end goal, but they were actually training ground for what God had for me next. A lot of y'all are in that season right now. And whether you're an athlete and you're wanting more out of life, you're wanting to pursue entrepreneurship, you're wanting to go to the next level, remember, you're not behind, you're being formed. And one cool story from the Bible, if you guys don't know the story of King David, obviously, he became king of Israel, but before that, before all this incredible calling and the reason we're even talking about him, he was in preparation mode. And for him, that preparation mode wasn't sports. For you, could be sports, could be athletics, could be playing on a team. For King David, when he was a kid, he was a shepherd boy. He was alone in isolation, taking care of sheep. And even after he knew he had an anointing on him to be king of Israel, he still stayed in that preparation zone. And so for you right now, if you're still playing sports, maybe you're finished, I'm not sure. But remember that all our time playing sports is going to lead us into the next chapter. And ultimately, we're being formed through that process. Next is perseverance. God builds belief before assignment. So nothing came easy for me as an athlete. I didn't walk into elite talent like some of y'all. Some of y'all didn't have to practice and it just came easy to you. For me, everything came through hours in the gym, through repetition, through staying late, through opening up doors and coming in early to practice, like thousands and thousands and thousands of shots. And what I realized is that perseverance is so important because what it taught me is that change is possible. I watched myself going from a very, very mediocre high school basketball player to leading the team and being able to go from averaging 10 a game to 25. And there's so many elements that people quit too early. And that was one thing God blessed me with, was perseverance, to be able to keep going and the ability to stay when it's boring, painful, unseen work, unseen reps. Ultimately, God uses sports to teach perseverance, because for a lot of athletes, success does not come easy. It comes through hard work. It comes through continually pushing and pushing and pushing. And ultimately in life, for us to succeed, we have to have that. And for God to use you, you've got to be able to persevere. And sports can be a great teacher to prepare you for that. All right, I want to give you all now some proof from history to show this isn't just a personal opinion, but I want to show you someone who actually lived this out, someone that God prepared them through sports to do an incredible calling. And this is an incredible story if you guys haven't heard. A guy named Liddell. He was a Scottish Olympic sprinter in the 1924 Paris Olympics. He was favorited to win gold in the 100 meters, but the qualifying heat was scheduled on a Sunday. So because of what God put in his heart and his ultimate purpose, not for attention, not to go out and achieve worldly success, he faced massive pressure, national disappointment, and media criticism. So instead of the 100 meters, because it was on a Sunday and he was in church, he said, I'm not going. So he switched to the 400 meters, an event he was not expected to win. And he won gold. He set a record. And here's the part most people don't know. This wasn't his peak. At the height of fame, Liddell walked away from public acclaim to become a missionary in China, where he served there for years. He was later imprisoned in a Japanese internment camp, and he died there in 1945. Sports shaped his character. Character prepared him for the calling God had. And athletics for him wasn't the destination, but it was the preparation. See, Eric could have easily said, well, how many times would we say, qualifying's on a Sunday, but you know what, I'll go to church next week. I don't have to go. I mean, this guy had so much faith that he said, I am going to put God first in everything. I don't ultimately care about this worldly success. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to honor God. That was his personal conviction, right? And look how the Lord honored it. And he went on to win, and then went on to live an incredible life and left at the peak. And so, I mean, when we read stories like this, I mean, you just are reminded that there's so much more to life than what's in front of us now. Ultimately, God has a plan for each and every one of you, and our goal is just to live out that plan. Our goal is to be a good, faithful servant to what God has for us. And for Eric, that's what it looked like. A modern example that I want to talk about is none other than Tim Tebow. And so you see this pattern. Tim Tebow, he grew up as a child of missionary parents, but God used athletics as his platform. God used sports for him. Football wasn't the end goal, it was the path. And today, Tim Tebow, people think of him as a football player, but his foundation in ministry work that he's really pouring into the vulnerable people around the world is helping thousands of people. And God built him through sports, through discipline, conviction, perseverance, and that all translated into his mission field about what he's doing now and the true calling that God had for his life. So again, sports wasn't the finish line, but it actually was the training ground and the preparation ground. And ultimately, I'm going to leave you with one last thing here, and that's really discipline and being faithful even when you don't see the full picture. And so athletes understand discipline. I mean, I don't even have to get into that. We've talked a lot about that before in other videos. Everything from early morning practicing, putting your body through hell, all of those different things. I mean, we understand discipline, but that discipline can also translate into our spiritual life. And so I've read this verse before on the channel. I'm going to read it again. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26 to 27. And it says, so I run with purpose in every step. I am not shadowboxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should do. Think about how amazing that is. God actually relates pursuing, that verse is about pursuing God, by the way, but God actually relates pursuing God as an athlete pursues training. Think about how incredible that is, that God chose to relate to humans, that the pursuit of him needs to be like an athlete pursuing training. It's incredible. And so really, that discipline that we learned as athletes can transfer beautifully over into our life to honor God. So nothing you learned as an athlete is wasted. Whether you're currently an athlete, right now, if you're a current athlete, understand this. You're not just playing a game, but you're actually being formed. If you're a former athlete and you've played before, which I mean, most of us are, hear this clarity. Nothing that you learned was wasted, and ask God how he wants to build what you have already been built for, what has been built into you. Ask God. There's been so many things that as an athlete that are inside of you, and how does God want to use that? And if you don't know Jesus, man, don't coast through life living for yourself. I've done that most of my 20s. I lived for myself until God humbled my heart and really got a hold of me. And really, we all have a higher purpose, and it's not just to live for ourselves in our plan, but it's actually to look up to God. And so reach out, pray to Jesus today. DM me on Instagram if you have any questions. I'd love to talk to y'all, and you can hit me up. If this video resonated, there's another video that I did called Why Discipline is Biblical and Why Athletes Understand It Instinctively. Check that out, and I'm sure you'll be blessed by that. But I definitely would appreciate y'all. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, come along the journey. I'm on a journey, man. This is, for me, we are a long ways away. There's still a huge path ahead, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to come along the journey. We're gonna be posting multiple times per week. I know it's a new channel, but we're gonna grow fast, and so I'd appreciate you guys come along, and love y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.